Hello and welcome to the first lesson in the Beginner's Guide to Audio Engineering series here at WaveSpot. In this lesson series, we're going to cover each of the different audio tools at our disposal. We're going to discuss how, when, and why to use each one, with practical examples. We're going to be covering the very basics from ground one, so I'm going to be assuming that you've never even seen any of these tools before. And we're going to discuss each one in order to give you a good foundational understanding of how to actually use them and implement them in your work. For those of you that are new here, my name is Austin Knaus, and I've been working with audio for over 2 decades. My goal for this channel is to share all the fundamentals that I've learned along the way in hopes to give you a fast track to understanding the world of sound. So, let's dive in. So please forgive me for my congestion. I'm just now getting over being sick, but I still have to make an episode because the show must go on. The first tool that we're going to talk about in this series is a spectrum analyzer or a frequency analyzer. And the reason why I want to get into this tool first, one, it allows us to see things that we might not necessarily hear in our listening environment. And second, I'm going to be using this tool a lot in each one of our demonstrations in order to visually represent the things that are going on in the frequency spectrum. So without further ado, let's jump into the DAW. This is Voxengo SPAN. This is a free, yes, it's a free spectrum analyzer. I can show you really quick. It is free. As you can see here, Voxengo SPAN free. You can download it. It is a plugin that you can put in almost any DAW. You can see the list from, oh my gosh, there's a lot of them. I'm not even going to read all of them. But it's a free spectrum analyzer. I'll drop a link in the description here for you guys that allows us to see what's going on inside of the audio spectrum. So how do we read a spectrum analyzer? Well, first, we have this really big window right here that's going to show us a graphical representation of what's going on with our audio. You can also notice that they're kind of broken off into sections. We have 20 to 100, then we have 200 to 1000, and then we have 2000 to 10,000. And these separations are called decades. So 0 to 100 is our first decade. And then if we multiply 100 by 10, then we get 1000. And then so 100 to 1000 is our second decade. 1000 times 10 is 10,000. So 1000 to 10,000 is our third decade. So on and so forth. This is why these grid lines aren't necessarily evenly spaced out, and why 200 to 300 is yay big and 800 to 1000 is like half the size of that. It has to do with harmonics and the frequencies and the repetition of frequencies. I have a video, I'll link it up at the top, that discusses fundamental frequencies and harmonics and the physics behind all of it. So this area is going to show us all of our frequencies. And just to give you a demo really quick, I have a simple sine wave that's going to go from below 20 all the way up to 20,000 hertz, just to give you a demonstration auditorially and visually. So let's take a look at that. So that was just a quick demo of a single frequency moving from the lowest to the highest point in the spectrum, from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. That's the full range. The next portion I want to look at is the output right here. Now this is both kind of an input and an output meter, because with a spectrum analyzer, we don't really change what's going on at all. This is more of a meter. It just represents what we feed it. So if you give it something that's really loud, it's going to say that the output's really loud. If you give it something really quiet, it's going to say that the output's really quiet. So again, if we play this tone again, so we can see that it just displays the output gain level. Now, if I were to turn that down, see, it's still playing, but nothing's going through it. If I were to turn it up again, so it's a representation of what is going on. It's not altering, it's not tailoring, it's not changing or coloring our sound at all. It's just showing us what's there. Now, we're not going to get into this bottom stuff just yet, but just know that these are all really important, and this correlation meter is going to be a lifesaver later on. When we get into mastering, these are going to become really important to us. As for now, we're just trying to figure out how to actually read this, and it's pretty basic. The lows are on the left and the highs are on the right. So I want to show you how to dial in Voxengo SPAN's settings and what each one of them kind of does. And so what I've done is I've turned the audio all the way down so I don't get a copyright strike for playing other people's music. So while I'm talking about the different settings, I'm going to be playing different sections of different songs from different artists. You can see up here we have some Odessa, Systems, No Mana, and Zoo to cover the EDM spectrum. We also have some Billie Eilish in there, Birds of a Feather, and we have Green Day, American Idiot. So we also have pop and some classic rock. So I'm going to hit play on here. We're not going to hear anything, but we're going to visually see what's going on in the spectrum. So these are professionally mixed and mastered tracks, and they're just going to cycle through different songs. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into this settings page right here. And so what we're going to look at first is the type, and that's real-time average. And real-time average just being what is going on currently here real time. And we can go into max value, which is going to just continuously build its peaks and find the max value. Average, which is just going to give us an average. We want real-time average, so that's going to move in proportion with the audio that is happening. Block size. Block size is, let's say we have 2,000, or we have 20,000 different frequencies, and with a block size of 64, that means that we have 64 blocks to represent 20,000 frequencies. Now we can go up to, 65,536, which is going to just tank because my computer can't handle that. So what I found is 8192 is a decent block size for my liking. It represents enough frequency information that I don't feel like I'm missing anything. So block size is purely just how each section of the frequency spectrum is chunked into different blocks. So we can still see the lows, we can see some frequencies popping out in the mids and the highs. When it comes to overlap, I don't use any overlap because I don't like the way it functions. We can crank it here really quick, and it just kind of jumbles things a little bit for me because 100 hertz can also trigger a little bit above and below it. If we remove the overlap, it just becomes a more precise tool. Average time here is set to 589. Now this is a number that I just kind of stumbled across because if we increase it, you can see how it slows down. This is the average time. I do believe it is in milliseconds on how long it takes for the frequency to develop. Now if we go really short, have fun reading that, so the default setting here is 589, and that just gives you a good, well-rounded representation. You can see the transients fairly well. If something peaks up there, it doesn't bypass you really quickly, and it also doesn't take a long time to, it's just being stagnant. Frequency low and frequency high. You can see here we have 20 hertz and 20,000 hertz. We can go all the way down to 1 hertz, and surprisingly enough, we can go all the way up to 96,000 hertz, 96K. Now you can see here that anything above that, we're not even going to be able to hear because of our sample rate. Now, going back to the defaults, 20 to 20,000 are all you're ever really going to need. If you see anything really going below this 20 line, you're not even going to hear it. You might feel it, but you're not going to hear it, period. There's not even very many speakers out there in the world that can actually reproduce this. So frequency low and frequency high are good to just stay at 20 and 20,000 hertz. So range low and range high. Now, when you read the description of what these actually are, it says that they're dB levels, but they seem kind of arbitrary to me. The one thing that I will point out that I have noticed is this 30 mark right here, this negative 30. This line right here represents, to me, over my course of learning, a good line to balance your mix to. Now, you'll notice that this bass over here, a good bass line, tends to sit around that negative 30 mark. So if we go through all of the different tracks right here, we can see that this 30 line is where the bass tends to sit. So this is pop music, this Billie Eilish. Going back into EDM, now we're going to be bass heavy because it's EDM. Now we're going to go into Zoo, which is kind of a pop sounding EDM, and we can see the bass is a little bit higher. And then Green Day, which is rock, is going to be a little bit lower. So this 30 mark right here tends to be my base point for the level that I like to mix to. So the slope here is an important one to adjust and understand. I'm pretty sure 4.5 is the way it comes straight out of the box, but it is a good one to make sure that you're paying attention to it. So at the 1K mark, if there was a pin right here, the slope pivots at that 1K mark. And so if your slope is offset and you start to mix with your eyes, which is very dangerous, by the way, don't mix with your eyes, always mix with your ears. It can start to lie to you. You could think you might have too much bass, but your slope is actually wrong. Or you have too much highs, but your slope is actually wrong. So it's really important to make sure that your slope is set evenly. And how do you know that it is kind of evenly set? Well, if you can see all of these songs play through, if I play through them really quickly, you see how all of those, from Odessa to Systems to Billie Eilish, No Mana, Zoo, and even to Green Day, they all just kind of stayed level. See that? I highly encourage you to go grab some of your favorite songs and throw them in the DAW and listen to them and watch them with a frequency analyzer, which will allow you to see what a good mixed and mastered song sounds like, or what it actually looks like in a frequency spectrum, or a spectrum analyzer. So watching some of your favorite music in a spectrum analyzer will give you a good visual representation of what's going on in a professionally mixed and mastered track. Now, this is a tip that I don't remember where I heard it, but after I did it, I had a bunch of realizations, and I was able to go into my own mixes and make some adjustments to kind of copy what I was seeing here. And this is also what gave me the idea that this 30 mark right here is a good place to be, just after watching countless hours of just watching professionally mixed and mastered tracks through Voxengo SPAN. Now the last thing that I'm going to get into is this smoothing here, and it's currently set at 1/4 octave. If we make it smaller, we can see that we kind of start to get more frequencies in here. If we go to 2 octaves, it kind of gets smoother. And so 1/4 octave is enough information so I'm not overwhelmed by the information, but also a small enough amount of information that I don't start nitpicking things. So after you've dialed in all of the settings that you like, you can go into presets right here and hit this drop down menu, and you can see all my goofy named presets. And what you can do is you can click the plus, which will add, and then you can name it, this is my new preset. And then you can hit OK. And then what you can do is select it, and then you can hit activate. And what that will do is now, this is my new preset. The name's kind of too long for the box there, but it'll show up in here. And you can go through the different presets that you make over time, because your settings might change for the purpose or what you're doing at the time. But this allows you to save your settings and switch them on the fly. So this is Voxengo SPAN, and that is a spectrum analyzer. And what it allows us to do is it allows us to see the frequency spectrum that's going on. And now we might not be able to hear everything down here, but it's good to know that the information is there. Now, you might not be able to hear everything above 10,000 hertz, but it's good to know if that information is there. So why is the spectrum analyzer important, and why did I pick it as the first tool to show you guys? Well, throughout the further lessons, I'm going to be referring to it a lot. It's going to be paired with all the other tools that I use, so I can not only hear what's going on, but I can see what's going on. And so I can show you the effects of using a tool in real time. So you don't have to just rely on hearing it, because sometimes YouTube's algorithm compresses things and changes the way things sound, so it's not 100% accurate. So a visual representation is a good hand-holding opportunity to show you exactly what is happening in the frequency spectrum without us actually being able to hear it. If you've made it this far into the lesson and you're still wondering, Austin, how do I even load Voxengo SPAN into my DAW? That's a good question. Well, if you head over to wavespot.com and this episode's blog post, at the very bottom, I walk you through how to, 1, organize your files, and 2, not only load Voxengo SPAN into your DAW, but all your other future plugins that you'll acquire. And don't worry, all the information's free. Just head over to wavespot.com, head over to the blog post, and all the information's there for you. If you found any value in today's episode, make sure to hit the subscribe button and leave a like. It really helps out the channel. If you learned something new, or if you still have a question, leave a comment below and I'll be sure to get back to you. If you want to read more on the topic, head over to wavespot.com, where I have much more detailed information written in a blog post, along with some illustrations from today's lesson. And until next time, thanks for watching.